Janice, thank you.
When I was elected in 2014, and I stood for the European elections, I'm a North West Labour MEP. When I stood for the elections here in 2014, I stood against Nick Griffin. I stood against a Nazi fascist Holocaust denier and got rid of him. And so my work at regional level here in the North West, where I represent 7 million people, but also at European level and international level, is to work against racism, fascism, and genocide. I actually founded in the European Parliament a network called the Eli Wiesel Network, which is a network of parliamentarians, elected members. You need to be in it, Jeanette, right? A network of elected members who will stand against genocide, mass atrocities, and also against genocide denial. And what we're trying to do with that network is to look to the past for important lessons and also to look for the signs of where these mass atrocities might be taking now. And they're the places where we need to be. If we're elected members, the cameras are on us, we have a platform, we can shine a light on the places where these atrocities are happening or where society is being shut down. So I was elected in 2014, and I hadn't really engaged with this issue prior to that, but a Kurdish student, mature student from Manchester, came to talk to me about what had happened to his family back in Kurdistan, and it was a really upsetting story. I don't need to tell you the details. You know what is happening to these people, a village just outside Diyarbakir. And I thought that actually I have a responsibility to all my constituents, and particularly have a responsibility to those people who are vulnerable, those people who don't have a voice. And round about the same time as he came to see me, the organisation with which I've co-founded this network to stand against genocide said, we're going to Diyarbakir, we're going to go to Kurdistan, we're going to do a study visit. And it was a pan-European group, loads of young people on this visit. And I persuaded the journalist John Hunt, many of whom you will know. John came with me as well. John already knew lots about the situation. He's done many election observations in Kurdistan, but we work quite closely together here in the Northwest. And actually, on the way to Diyarbakir, I was actually stopped at the airport by the Turkish secret security, I have to say. I was taken out of my hotel as I was checking in. I had an overnight stop in Istanbul airport. I was removed from the reception area. I was taken back to the airport. I was interrogated. I had all my gadgets taken off me, and my emails were hacked. Okay? Why? I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't tell them I was an MEP. All right? I told them I was going to Diyarbakir because I work in culture, which is true. I'm on the Culture and Education Committee in the European Parliament. I didn't tell them. I didn't use my diplomatic passport. Right? Do you know why they stopped me? Simply because of my destination. Because my air ticket said I was going to Diyarbakir, and it was the Turkish Airlines help desk who shot me to the police, who said, this woman's dodgy, she's going to Diyarbakir, is she a journalist, is she a human rights activist, okay? That's what happened to me. So I can tell you from the perspective of simply being an innocent traveller abroad, because as far as they were concerned, that's all I was, okay? I was under threat. Now, I was very scared at that moment because I thought that what would happen, because they took my phone off me and I thought they could see my messages and all the rest of it, I was really scared that what they would do would hurt the people that I was going to visit and the people who were coming to talk to us. I knew ultimately what can they do to me? They'll probably just send me back to Brussels or back to Manchester, but I was so scared for the people who I was going to meet. The organisation that did the journey, it's called the European Grassroots Anti-Racist Movement. And they did a canny thing. I just want to talk about that. They set up meetings with HDP, with both the mayors of Diyarbakir at the time, with parents of, bereaved parents of some of the young people who'd been burned in the basements in the area. We also went to a refugee camp for Yazidi people. We went to Nusaybin, where I met, I was so traumatized by Nusaybin, I can't tell you. Meeting the bereaved parents reminded me of being in Srebrenica, of meeting the mothers in Srebrenica. Those, in Nusaybin, people, they hadn't even got the bodies back. The bodies of the children were lying in the rubble somewhere. Still, you know, these are terrible atrocities that are happening. Anyway, but one of the things that, we also had a trade union meeting with the teachers' trade union, and as we were leaving the meeting, we were being filmed by the police. Okay? But one of the things that was on the agenda, which I thought was quite canny actually for this organisation, and it probably saved me and saved the people I was visiting, they put in a meeting with the AKP. Okay? They gave us a meeting with the AKP, so we're going to meet the HDP, we'll meet the AKP as well. And I think sometimes we've got to do those things. We've got to look like we are talking to all the people, even though we know why we are there, okay? But it's also very important to ask the AKP questions as well. Like, why are you destroying the ancient historic city in Diyarbakir? Why are you doing that? And they're going, oh, well, it's for the safety of the residents, you know? And we were saying, well, hang on, these are their homes. You haven't asked them. They want to live there. Also, this is a UNESCO site, isn't it? What are you doing, you know? My culture head on. And they were saying, oh, well, these young people, they're causing trouble for themselves and all the rest of it. But we need, having those conversations and challenging those people, I think, is quite important. Anyway, so I made that trip, and within 3 weeks I was back. I wasn't expecting to be back within 3 weeks, but Estella, who many of you will know, is a very persuasive woman. And Melanie was going, Melanie Gingle was going, and it was a women's trip, and this was a moment where we really needed to keep presence in the area, and we just had to keep having delegations there. In the end, it was just Melanie and I on a women's delegation. Now, it's very important to note the time frame here, 3 weeks, okay? 3 weeks, and in that 3 weeks, the deterioration of the situation that I experienced was really serious. The municipal town hall that had previously been open to the public, where you could go if you just wanted to talk to somebody about your bin collection, okay, was now like a military barricade with tanks, with fencing, you know, with armed guards. And I had to think about this. If I was going to Manchester Town Hall just to talk about my kids' schooling, all right, that's an equivalent, right? This is not acceptable. The two co-mayors who had hosted us and given us an incredible welcome and a dinner were both in prison, okay? These differences were horrendous to see the escalation of the situation of the police state, really. I also became a twin, like we're doing a lot of twinning projects. So I chose to partner with Layla Berlik. I chose Layla from a big list of imprisoned HDP members, elected politicians, because Layla was an artist and I work in the arts, and I want to have things in common, I suppose. She's also a mother, I'm a mother. I want to have things in common with the person I'm standing with. Now, I kept up a writing campaign, sending letters to Layla and making public statements about the situation, speaking about her in the European Parliament, sending her cards. And shortly, and she was released from prison in January. So I can tell you that the campaign works, okay? When you are prepared to stand up and speak out about injustice. And she has a health condition, so she's in the prison and she's got a health condition. She's the woman whose film actor brother was dragged through the streets, tied to the back of a truck. And it's that story that Ronnie in my constituency had told me about. So having these twinning projects is really, really important, and knowing about why people are so excited about Ocalan's vision. You know, these people keep going because this vision is an extraordinary vision of democracy, because it's inclusive in terms of women and feminism, because it's an environmental vision too, and God knows don't we need that in the world today. You know, the biggest single threat, I think, to our sustainability on this earth is environmental catastrophe. And so to have a leader who really understands about that is really important. The equality in the movement is extraordinary. You know, I'm a feminist. I'm on the Women's Rights and Gender Equality Committee in the European Parliament, and the Kurdish movement is an absolutely it's a shining star and an example for the work that we're doing. I subsequently twinned with Zara Doan through a project with the CPJ, the Committee for the Protection of Journalists. Zara is the editor of Jinha, which is the Kurdish women's media collective. And actually, I visited all of them in their media collective base the first time I went to Diyarbakir, and when I went back 3 weeks later, their building was shut, steel doors up against it, okay? They had they couldn't meet anymore, but they still managed to make their presentations, do their media declarations and reports, because they just found ways of being online. So I'm in solidarity with Zara, and what I do in the European Parliament is to give a space and a platform for all of these activities, for all of these movements. It means that I work really, really closely with the HDP policy advisor, FAIC, in Strasbourg. Every time I'm in Strasbourg, we meet up. I go and show my solidarity to the Kurdish people who are outside the Council of Europe. Sometimes they're there with their lips sewn together because they're so upset and angry about what's happening. I've been personally and made representations to the committee, the CPT, the Committee for the Prevention of Torture, on a personal level, to plead for knowledge about where Ocalan is. Is he still even in the prison? We don't know. So it's really important that we use whatever platform we have to try and make more visible what the vision, I think, but also the oppression. I was in Rojava. I led a women's peace delegation to Rojava last May through Peace in Kurdistan, and we put at the heart of that Afrin, what has been happening in Afrin, and I was there with the aunt of Anna Cameron. So that has been a very moving experience, to revisit all the places that Anna visited. Perhaps one just last thing to tell people is that we in the European Parliament, we hosted the meeting where the verdict of the Permanent People's Tribunal was given. And I'm really proud that my Parliament can give space to that. You know, it's the European Parliament has a really good track record on human rights and on engagement with civil society. And we are able to give that platform and to have huge numbers of people coming to the events there. And I'm really proud that we were able to do that in the European Parliament. Okay, I had to run now, sorry.
Thank you.